I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything after the worst betrayal of my life. My name's Mike, and I'd been with Sarah for about 3 years. We were set to get married in a few months, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. She could be a real bitch sometimes. She's sharp, cunning, and has a mouth that could cut glass, but I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. At the beginning, everything seemed normal. She was a bit moody, sure, but who is? I'd noticed she was spending more time on her phone than usual, hiding her screen when I walked into the room, but I brushed it off. Maybe she was just stressed about work or some personal stuff. I trusted her, or at least I wanted to. Then the small signs started piling up. She'd come home late from work more often, claiming she was staying late with her boss, David. She'd come up with stories about meetings and deadlines, but something about her tone changed. She'd get defensive if I asked too many questions, saying I was crazy, paranoid, even accusing me of mistrusting her. That made me feel like I was losing my mind, but I kept quiet. I thought maybe I was overthinking. One night I was cleaning out my desk doing some work stuff, and I found a receipt in her purse. It was from a fancy hotel downtown, paid for with her card. I remember staring at it, my heart pounding, thinking, what the hell? She said she was working late again, but that night I decided to look deeper. I checked her messages, her emails, everything I could find. I didn't expect much, but what I uncovered absolutely shattered my world. It wasn't just about the hotel. It was about who she was cheating with, how long she'd been lying, and how much of my trust she had destroyed. I still remember the sinking feeling in my stomach when I read the texts between her and David, their secret little conversations, the flirtations, the plans to meet up. I saw enough to know it wasn't just some fling or one-night thing. This had been going on for months. And the worst part, she'd been hiding it from me, acting all normal, pretending everything was fine, while she was screwing her boss behind my back. That's when I realized Sarah was not the woman I thought I knew. She'd been lying all this time, and I was left with a choice: confront her or walk away. The truth hit me like a punch in the gut, and I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, staring at my phone, replaying everything I'd found. It was like my mind was running 100 miles an hour, trying to process how I'd missed all the signs, how she could have been so two-faced. I felt sick, betrayed, furious. I kept asking myself how she could do this to me, to us, right before our wedding. It was like she had been planning this all along, hiding her true self behind a pretty smile and a facade of love. The next morning, I decided I had to confront her. I didn't want to go into it blind, so I took the time to prepare myself mentally. I needed to hear her out, but I also wanted her to know I wasn't some naive fool anymore. When she came home from her workday, I made sure. She saw the look in my eyes, that cold, hurt, furious gaze that I couldn't quite hide. She knew something was wrong the second she stepped inside. "Sarah," I said, voice low and steady but trembling with anger, "we need to talk, now." Her face immediately shifted into a defensive mask, the bitchy smirk creeping up her lips. She tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid. But I cut her off. I pulled out the receipts, the texts, everything I'd found. I watched her face go pale, her lips trembling and her eyes darting away. Her first reaction was denial. "Mike, you're crazy. You're reading too much into this. That's just work stuff, nothing more." She kept lying, twisting her words, trying to make me doubt what I saw, but I'd seen enough. I told her I knew about David, about the hotel, about everything. Her face twisted into something bitter, like she was angry I found out, like I'd ruined her perfect plan. She snapped back, saying she was only talking to him, that it was nothing serious, just some stupid flirtation she couldn't control. She threw in a dozen excuses, claiming I was paranoid, insecure, jealous. "It's just sex," she said, like that somehow made it okay. Like I should just accept it because she's entitled to cheat if she wants. I couldn't believe how cold she was, how willing she was to lie straight to my face. It was like she enjoyed twisting the knife. I felt my stomach turn, and I knew right then I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent anymore. The worst part, she didn't even seem sorry, just angry that I'd found her out. That was the moment I realized I'd been played for a fool, used, lied to, betrayed. I looked at her, trying to hold back the tears, the rage, everything I was feeling. How do you even begin to process that kind of betrayal? It's like your entire sense of reality gets turned upside down and suddenly nothing feels real anymore. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew us. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. After she finished her bullshit excuses, I just stared at her, feeling my blood boil. I couldn't believe how manipulative she was being, trying to paint herself as the victim when she was the one screwing around behind my back. I wanted to scream, to shout, to just tear her apart right there. But I held it in, took a deep breath, and said, "That's it, I'm done. You've been lying to my face for months and I can't trust you anymore. I'm not the kind of guy who can just forget this. I need time to think." She looked at me like I'd just kicked her. Her eyes darted around, shoulders trembling, and she spat back, "You're overreacting. You're crazy. You're just jealous because I don't want to be with a guy who doesn't trust me. You're making a huge deal out of nothing." But I wasn't buying any of her bullshit anymore. Deep down, I knew I was done. The love I had for her had been poisoned by her lies, and I could feel it slipping away. Her reaction to the confrontation was pure chaos. She started crying, acting like she was the victim, saying she loved me, that she'd never cheat if I just gave her a second chance, that she'd been stressed, that it just happened, that she was stupid. I didn't buy any of it. I knew her too well by then. That bitch had always been good at lying, good at hiding what she really wanted. I saw the truth in her eyes, the truth she desperately tried to hide behind her tears and excuses. I told her I needed space, that I was going to stay with a friend for a few days. I packed a bag, couldn't sleep that night, replaying everything over and over. I felt sick about what I'd uncovered, but also a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just a fling. She'd been actively cheating, hiding it, lying to me for months. How could I trust her again? Even if she stopped seeing David, how do I trust her now? How do I ever believe a word she says? That night I sat alone in the dark, feeling numb, angry, and sadness all at once. I kept asking myself how I could have missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind. I'd built my entire future around her, and now all I had was this wreckage. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't know if I'd ever recover from it. I kept thinking about the moment I found the receipts, the texts, and how my stomach just dropped out of me. That feeling, like I'd been punched in the gut, never went away. It's still with me. I've realized something, though. I can't keep pretending I don't see what she is. I see her now, bitchy, manipulative, and lying through her teeth. That's not the woman I love. That's someone else entirely. And I deserve better than someone who cheats, who lies, who makes a fool out of me. I know I have to decide what's next. Do I forgive her? Do I try to fix this? Or do I cut my losses and run? Honestly, I don't have an answer yet. All I know is that I'm hurt, I'm angry, and I'm not going to be some sucker anymore. The days that followed were a blur of thoughts and emotions I couldn't quite keep in check. Every time I looked at her, I saw that smug, bitchy expression she throws around when she's trying to manipulate someone, trying to convince herself she's the victim. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I'd seen her true colors, and they weren't pretty. She thought she could lie her way out of this, but I knew better now. I wasn't going to be some fool who gets played like a pawn in her game. I decided to take some time off work to clear my head. I needed space to think about what I really wanted. Part of me wanted to smash every mirror in the house just to see the reflection of the betrayed guy I'd become. I felt stupid, humiliated, furious, like I'd been played for a damn fool. How the hell could she do this? How could she lie to my face, act like everything was perfect, and then turn around and screw her boss? One thing I realized quickly was how much she'd been trying to manipulate me even after I confronted her. She kept calling, texting, trying to say she was sorry and asking for another chance. But every apology sounded fake, rehearsed. She was just trying to keep me around, keep me from walking away for good. I knew she'd been lying from the start, so her apologies didn't mean shit. At that point, I was just trying to keep my composure and not lose it on her. The worst part was how she tried to gaslight me, insisting that I was overreacting, that it was just sex and that I had no right to be upset. Yeah, just sex, like that makes everything okay. Like she was entitled to cheat and I should just shut up and accept it. That's when I realized she'd always been a bitch, bitchy, selfish, and completely clueless about how much she'd hurt me. I kept replaying the moments in my head where she'd lied, where she'd tried to spin her bullshit stories, and I felt my jaw tighten. Some nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, just trying to process how everything fell apart so suddenly. It was like I'd been hit with a wrecking ball that knocked down everything I believed in. I'd trusted her. I'd loved her. And she'd been screwing her boss, David, right under my nose, hiding it so well I almost didn't see the signs. I keep asking myself how many times I turned a blind eye because I wanted to believe in her, in us. But deep down, I knew it was all a lie. I made a decision at that point. I couldn't keep pretending this wasn't happening. I needed to have a real talk with her. No more bullshit, no more excuses. I needed her to understand that I saw her for what she really was, that I wasn't some idiot anymore. I was done being played, done being the guy who gets cheated on and then tries to pretend everything's fine. I knew I deserved better. I just didn't know how to fix the damage she'd caused. All I knew is that I wasn't going to keep living in this nightmare. The confrontation I knew was coming finally happened a few days later. I told her to come over and she showed up with that typical bitchy smirk, like she was doing me a favor just by showing her face. She thought she could waltz back in, apologize again, and I'd somehow forget everything. But I wasn't having it. I was done playing her games. I looked straight at her and told her exactly what I'd found, what I'd seen, and how I felt. I told her I knew about David, how they'd been screwing for months behind my back, how she'd lied to my face, how she'd used me as some kind of pawn in her little game. She tried to deny it at first, saying I'd misunderstood, that nothing serious was going on, but I threw the texts in her face. I had screenshots, messages, proof. I saw the way her face froze, her eyes darting around, trying to come up with some bullshit excuse. Her reaction was classic. She got defensive, started throwing blame my way, said I was insecure, jealous, crazy, that I was overreacting because I didn't understand her, that she needed space to think about what she wanted. But I saw right through her. She was just trying to save her ass, trying to spin her way out of this mess she'd created. I told her she had to choose, me or David, and honestly, I didn't expect her to pick me. I was just done. Done pretending everything was okay, done pretending I didn't see the real her. She looked at me like I'd punched her in the gut, but still refused to admit she'd done anything wrong. That was the moment I realized she was a bitchy, manipulative liar who didn't give a damn about me. In that confrontation, I felt all the anger and sadness pour out. I told her I was leaving, that I couldn't keep pretending she was the woman I fell in love with. I told her I was going to stay with my brother for a while just to get away, to breathe. I knew I couldn't rebuild what she destroyed, not like this. I trusted her with my life, and she'd thrown it all away for some stupid sex with her boss. That night I slept on the couch at my brother's place, feeling emptier than I ever had in my life. I kept thinking about all the moments I missed, how blind I'd been, how much I'd given her, and how she'd repaid me with lies and betrayal. I was angry at her, sure, but mostly I was just sad. Sad that I'd lost what I thought was my future, that I'd been played for a fool. And I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I was done. Done with her lies, and done with pretending everything was okay. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I felt like I was walking through a fog of betrayal, trying to piece together what my life had become. The house was silent, the memories haunting me at every turn. I kept replaying everything: the lies, her bitchy smirks, the nights she spent with David. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I knew I had to make a decision, but honestly, part of me just wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep living in this shadow of betrayal. I started thinking about my own future, what I deserved, what I needed. I knew I couldn't stay with someone who lied and cheated, not anymore. Trust was gone. All the love I once had for her had been poisoned by her lies. I had to cut her out, no matter how much it hurt. I sat down and wrote her a long message, laying everything out: how I found out, how I felt, that I was done. I told her I never wanted to see her again, that I hoped she got what she deserved, and that I'd be moving on. It wasn't easy to say those words, but I knew I had to be honest with myself. I deserved better than a bitchy wife who cheated with her boss, who lied for months and then threw a tantrum when she got caught. In the end, I realized this experience taught me a lot. I learned that trust is fragile, that people can hide their true selves behind a pretty face, and that sometimes you have to walk away from everything you thought was real. It's painful, yeah, but it's also a relief. I don't have to live with her lies anymore. I don't have to pretend I don't see her for what she is. So here I am, telling this story so maybe someone else out there can see what betrayal really looks like, how it cuts deep and how it changes you. I've learned that revenge isn't about hurting her back. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. I've never been this hurt before, but I also feel like I'm finally starting to breathe again. No more lies, no more betrayal. Just me, moving forward, determined to find someone who actually deserves my trust.